A boy with girly hair. Wait until you get my age. A boy with girly hair. Wait until you get my age, dear. Then time really does fly. I was riding my bike, it was summer vacation, before dinner, and it was a hot day. Mom, I can see in my mind everything that happened that day. See ya, Jeff, the long-haired boy called as he lifted his body and pushed down on the bike pedal with all his weight. See ya, Mike, the other boy called as he bicycled off. Phew, Michael exhaled. Man, was he beat. He and his friend had been riding their bikes all day, but it was more relaxed when they started. Now it was hot, really hot. His armpits were soaking wet, and beads of sweat dribbled down the center of his chest. But worse was his long ponytail that stuck to the back of his neck, scratching it every time he turned his head. He was almost tempted to stop in at Mrs. Anderson, where his mother had her hair done, and get a short haircut. Anyway, he'd have to get it cut before high school. School policy said no long hair on boys, and he was a boy. Better not, Jeff said, your mom would kill ya unless you ask her. Anyway, Jeff was right. Michael knew his mother liked his hair long, and so did Jeff. Big deal, he thought, I can get a haircut any day, but for sure before September. His house was cooler than outside, but not by much. The young boy grabbed a Coke and headed down the few stairs off the kitchen to the family room. Wow! The icy can felt good in his hand. Michael popped the tab and gulped down the Coke so fast that he snorted liquid out of his nose. You boys have fun, his mother said, entering the kitchen. Yeah, he said, shaking his head and rubbing his nose with the back of his hand, but it's too hot. Well, that's what we've been waiting all winter for. Mom always says that when anyone complains of the heat. The family room was cooler, and the young boy plopped down on the couch, with his legs dangling over the armrest. No use asking his mother to turn on the air. All she'd say is, can't you feel that lovely breeze? Breeze, my butt. Michael thought. What is we having for dinner? Michael called over his shoulder. Aren't you hot, Michael, with that long hair on your neck? His mother asked, standing over him. I don't know, a little, maybe. I'm sure you'd feel cooler with that hair off your neck. Off my neck. Yeah, sure, guess so. I was going to get a haircut, but another day, I figured. Haircut, I could roll it in a bun or comb it into a French twist or some other way. That was the way his mother fixed his hair when he took a bath, but he wasn't feeling like a bath now. Nah, not now. Michael, why not? You'll feel so much cooler with your hair off your neck. The teenage boy grimaced as if he was doing some serious thinking. Yes, he would feel cooler. But later, he thought. Now, Michael, you know you have such nice hair, and the sun gives it such lovely blonde highlights. Why not let me fix it really nicely for you? Do it for your mother, won't you? Geez, Mom, Michael thought. I'm getting too old for this. Please, Michael. Michael sighed a long sigh. Now his hair was bothering him, and all his mother's talk made him even more conscious of it on his neck. Michael. Now his mother was becoming more irritating than his hair. What, Mom, what? Michael, let me do something with your hair. You'll feel more comfortable. Promise. We have a couple of hours before dinner. Let me do something with your hair, and we'll be through with this conversation. Mrs. Reed was surprised by her son's stubbornness. Usually, he was such an obedient child. Guess he's growing up, she said to herself. That's something she dreaded. Mom, as I said, I was thinking about a haircut, a real haircut, not a trim. With school coming up. The policy. Tell you what. Let me fix your hair today, and next week you can get a haircut if you still want to. Mrs. Reed had read and reread the policy, and she didn't like it, not at all. Michael dropped his left leg over the couch and held out his right hand. All right, he said in a voice that meant he would, but under duress. Sit here, Mrs. Reed said, taking her son's hand like a fish takes the bait and leading him to one of the card table chairs set up in the corner of the room. In no time at all, you'll feel as cool as a cucumber. Anyway, if you don't like it, you can comb it out. Okay. Michael pulled out a clanging metal folding chair, steadied it with a bang, sat down, and waited for his mother. He quickly straightened up as he felt his ponytail lifted off his neck. Off came the hairband. The young boy felt his mother spread apart his thick hair and slide her fingers through the tangles, unweaving the snags. My, look at your hair, Michael. I don't know why you always wear it in a ponytail. It's so lovely hanging loose. My. It reaches the middle of your back. Do other boys ever make fun of you? Nah, like I told you, Mom, maybe one or two, but I don't care. The girls love it. This one girl in school, Sally, wanted to fix it. One day she invited me over to her house to play beauty parlor, whatever that was. Anyway, Jeff said that he read where Buffalo Bill had long hair 'cause the Indians always wanted his scalp, so he was daring them to get, tempting them. Mrs. Reed considered Michael fortunate. He lived in a small community where most people accepted almost everyone. With so many young people leaving, everyone was made to feel welcome. To the other kids, Michael was just a boy with long hair. Mothers wanted to protect him, girls accepted him, and boys didn't see him as competition for the girls in town. Michael twisted the plastic rod, opening up the blinds to have a better view, and Mrs. Reed began combing her son's hair to one side and then to the other, working out the snags until a curtain of hair covered her son's back. Slowly she glided the comb through his hair, from his forehead to his shoulder blades and beyond, in one easy motion. Squirt, squirt. Mom, what are they doing? Squirt, squirt. Water helps to keep every hair in place. You know that. Yeah, we don't want to miss any hairs. The water felt good. A drop rested on Michael's forehead. He resisted touching it, felt it trickle down his face, stuck out his tongue trying to catch it. The comb glanced down the side of his head like a zipper opening up a jacket. A quick shiver ran down his spine, and his shoulders twitched. The corner of the fine-toothed comb danced off his head as his mother parted his hair, combed it to one side, and then gathered it together and secured it with a covered band. Skillfully, Mrs. Reed divided the mass of hair in her hand into 3 sections, and with quick fingers, crossed the left strand over the center strand, and then the right strand over the center strand, pulling taut each plait. Crossing and pulling tight strand after strand. Mrs. Reed smiled as she molded her son's hair into a braid along the side of his head and down his back. Mom, what you doing? Michael wondered with all the pulling and twisting going on. You'll soon see, dear. Michael knew his mother was in a world of her own. That's the way she got sometimes. Now and then, he'd find her just sitting like she was in some really deep thoughts. He closed his eyes and soaked up the sensations, the tugs on his hair, first here, then there, the feel of the comb, his mother's finger pressing against his head, and the tightness, almost painful tightness on his hair. Sure, his mother had combed his hair before, but this was different. Now his mother moved to the other side of his head, separating and pulling an overlapping strand after strand of hair. You have such lovely hair. It's fun, styling, nice hair. Mrs. Reed was trance-like as she continued. You know, Michael, when I was a young girl, I remember a neighbor would braid her son's hair, right on their front porch and in front of everyone. And when people came over, they'd all fuss and fuss over his pretty long braids. Luckily for you, we're not on the front porch for everyone to see. Then she would tie red ribbons to the braids, so you see, dear, you're not the only boy who has ever been in braids. Braids? Mom, no way. Not today. Michael tried to protest, shifting his shoulders, twitching, and turning his body sideways. Dear. Braids are pretty and sexy. Sure, on girls, Michael said, sinking down into the chair under the pressure of his mother's hands. Yes, dear, I'm braiding your hair. Braids are just so girlish. Mom, in case you forget, I'm not a girl. Of course, you're not. You're a darling, sweet boy, Mrs. Reed said, still nudging her son down onto the chair with the palms of her hands. Braids don't make you a girl any more than long hair makes you a girl. Michael tried to picture in his mind exactly what his mother was doing. Now he was beginning to feel very uncomfortable, even excited, by his picture in girlish braids. Without thinking, he blurted out, on. Sally Smith. Man. What a babe. One time she wore her hair in a long braid on the side of her head. God. I'd have given my baseball card collection just to. This was a new kind of excitement. Even worse, he began to think of that boy whose mother braided his hair in public. Wow. He must have felt terrible, Michael thought. Imagine in public a boy with his mother braiding his hair. He wondered if the boy was embarrassed, or did he like to be seen in public? What would people say to him if they saw him with braids? What about that boy? What about lots of things? Now he was suffering as the bulge in his pants grew and grew. He folded his hands over the mound and squirmed. Next, you'll want me in dresses, Michael blurted out. Only if that's what you want, his mother answered. Yeah, sure, like over my dead body, he said gruffly. Mothers sure can be silly at times, he thought. One more, Mrs. Reed proudly announced as she twisted a covered band around the end of the second braid, leaving only an inch of loose hair at the end. One more. Yes, dear, I'm braiding your hair into 3 braids. 3 braids. Mom, please. Shush, dear, I'll be finished in a minute. Time seemed to stand still as Michael waited for his mother to finish. He scrapped his fingers on the side of the chair, anxiously waiting. Phew, he exhaled. There he sat, looking out the window. After all, what teenage boy wouldn't suffer under the same circumstances? But already felt cooler, so maybe, he rationalized, this wasn't such a bad idea. Of course, he couldn't tell his mother that. The wheels in Michael's mind spun and spun. All done, Mrs. Reed proudly announced as she twisted a covered band around the end of the last braid, leaving an inch of uneven hair loose at the end. Michael sighed a long sigh. His mother gathered her supplies, and he waited anxiously for her to leave. Michael's mother left with a smile and pat on the shoulder, and he hurried to see himself in the mirror. Ah, Michael said to himself as he stared at the image. He couldn't believe such a transformation could be achieved by a simple hairdo. Over and over, he patted his braids, entranced by the symmetry, the tightness, and the pattern.